Among those under consideration to be former President Trump's running mate, South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, who joins me now. Senator Scott, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Good morning, Kristen. I hope you're doing well.
Well, we appreciate your being here. I want to start with those protests that we have seen on college campuses all across the country. We know that some universities have called in the police for reinforcements. Do you think that's the right move? And for those who are protesting peacefully, do you respect their right to peaceful protest, Senator?
Well, we certainly respect the right to peaceful protest. What we're seeing on college campuses, however, is too often not peaceful protests. There's a reason why there's been more than 2,000 arrests and detainments on college campuses. It's because people are being hit. They're vandalizing, they're breaking into buildings. What we have to understand is the anti-Semitism that we're seeing on college campuses today is akin to what we saw in the 1960s. What we should be saying as a nation, the American people, they're saying it loud and clear. They support eliminating anti-Semitism from college campuses. They're being very clear. There's no space for hate in America. What's not clear is why it took so long for President Biden to come to a microphone and condemn anti-Semitism. The reason, in part, is because his base refuses to let him do so. He's pandering to politics as opposed to standing up for fairness and standing against anti-Semitism. I would simply say this to every college president and university in America. Your federal funding is a privilege. It is not a right. A right is for every Jewish kid on campus to walk to class safely. What is a right is for every Jewish kid to study in a library peacefully. We need to make sure that every student feels that kind of security on every campus in America. And I thank God, Kristen, for Ben Sasse and what he's done at the University of Florida. He said it very simply. We are not going to coddle 20-year-old toddlers. We are going to enforce the laws of this campus, and he's done a brilliant job of doing so.
And of course, Senator, we did hear from President Biden this week, who condemned anti-Semitism. He's going to be delivering a speech on anti-Semitism on Tuesday. You have spoken out about the fact that there's anti-Semitism in your own party as well, all the way back to what we saw after Charlottesville and after Donald Trump's dinner with a Holocaust denier. But I do want to move to the fact that you were with former President Trump this weekend.
Well, Kristen, let me just say this, though, Kristen. One of the things that we should make sure that we do is continue to focus on the issues that we are seeing faced by those students today. This is bigger than politics. This is the kind of scourge on our nation. The thing that scars the soul of a country is when we don't stand up for the vulnerable. We should make sure we do that today, tomorrow, and every day going forward.
All right, well, let me ask you about what happened over the weekend. Of course, you were there for what is being described as an audition to be a potential VP pick with former President Donald Trump. So let me just ask you, did you discuss with the former president the possibility of being his running mate, Senator?
No, man. What we talked about this weekend was how bad the economy is for single parents like the one that raised me. We had a lot of conversations around the room about the importance of eliminating Bidenomics, about the importance of getting inflation back down to 2%. We were just better off under President Trump. Inflation, Kristen, was at 2%, and we had the lowest unemployment rates for African Americans, for Hispanics, for Asians, a 70-year low for women. We had the highest funding for historically black colleges and universities in the history of the country under President Trump. So we were excited to have a conversation. We had no conversations about the VP pick, to be honest with you, to be clear, but we had a lot of conversations about the failures of Joe Biden and the success of Donald Trump.
A couple of points on the economy. Of course, the inflation rate has come down significantly from its high in 2022. In terms of black unemployment, it was actually at its lowest rate last year, 4.7% in April of 2023 as compared to 5.3% under 2019 with Donald Trump. But just to be very clear, it didn't come up at all? Do you think you're on the short list?
No, ma'am, it did not come up. African American unemployment rate is 6.4 today.
But what about being VP? What about being President Trump's VP? Did it come up at all? Do you think you're on his short list?
I hope that the president will choose a person who helps the country unite and heal. I certainly expect to have a decision from President Trump in the next 60 days or so, but he did not bring it up. I certainly didn't bring it up. I'm excited that in this nation, a poor kid from South Carolina could rise to the level of being a United States Senator. It just tells me that all things are possible for kids growing up in poverty today. Listen to this show and know that all things are possible for your future.
All right, well, let's talk about some of the headlines this week. In an interview, Mr. Trump this week again would not commit to accepting the election results of 2024 if he loses. He still hasn't conceded the last election. You, of course, did vote to certify the 2020 election results, and you've said, quote, it was not stolen. Why would you join a ticket with someone who believes the exact opposite on this critical point?
Well, I think we have to listen to what President Trump said and not what the reporters said that he actually said. Here's one of the things that he's been very clear in, and even talking about the situation in Wisconsin. What he said was he expects there to be an honest election. He expects the results to be clear and for him to be successful. I expect him to be successful as well. There's no doubt that when you look at the polls across our country, the one thing that is crystal clear that the American people now having a contrast between 4 years of Joe Biden versus 4 years of Donald Trump, they're really excited to get back to the Trump years. And so I expect the election to be fair, and I expect Donald Trump to be our next president.
In terms of what he said, he specifically said, if it's not fair, as you're saying, you have to fight for the right of the country. And just this week, he said that he won Wisconsin. Falsely, Senator. So again, to the point, you voted to certify the election results of 2020. It's the exact opposite of what you said and did after 2020. Why would you want to be on a ticket with someone where there's such a fundamental difference?
There is clear facts here. President Trump himself said he expects this election to be fair, he expects it to be honest, and he expects to win. That's what the presidential candidate should expect, and I expect the exact same thing. And frankly, the American people agree with him. This is an issue that is not an issue, so I'm not going to make it an issue.
Well, Senator, will you commit to accepting the election results of 2024? Bottom line.
At the end of the day, the 47th president of the United States will be President Donald Trump, and I'm excited to get back to low inflation, low unemployment.
Wait, Senator, yes or no? Yes or no? Will you accept the election results of 2024 no matter who wins?
That is my statement.
But is it just yes or no? Will you accept the election results of 2024?
I look forward to President Trump being the 47th president. Kristen, you could ask him multiple times.
Senator, just a yes or no answer.
So the American people will make the decision.
But I don't hear you committing
for President Trump. That's clear.
I don't hear you committing to the election results.
Here's the challenge.
Will you commit to accepting the election results?
This is why so many Americans believe that NBC is an extension of the Democrat Party. At the end of the day, I've said what I've said, and I know that the American people, their voices will be heard, and I believe that President Trump will be our next president. It's that simple.
But, Senator, as you know, the hallmark of our democracy is that both candidates agree to a peaceful transfer of power. So I'm asking you, as a potential VP nominee, will you accept to commit to the election results in this election cycle, no matter who wins? Just simply yes or no. I expect President Trump to win the next election. Listen, I'm not going to answer your hypothetical question when, in fact, I believe the American people are speaking today on the results of the election. And if it continues for the next 6 months, we find ourselves in a great position where we get back to another century of American prosperity. Yes. I'm looking forward to that. All right. Let me ask you about the issue of abortion. As a candidate for president, you said very clearly that you supported a 15-week federal ban. You said it was necessary. This week, Donald Trump is saying, quote, he's not signing a national abortion ban and that the issue should be left up to the states. Is Donald Trump wrong to leave that issue up to the states, Senator?
Well, there's no doubt that the Dobbs decision sent it back to the states. So the Supreme Court has ruled. The leading candidate, our Republican nominee, has made it very clear that this is a state's issue. That is the decision that will be made, and we will see how the states handle it. But there's no question that President Trump has been very clear that he wants the issue left to the states, with 3 exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother.
You have been very clear, though, as well as a candidate, and your message is the exact opposite. You said back in August, quote, "We must have a president of the United States who will advocate and fight for, at the minimum, a 15-week limit." Do you stand by that, or have you now changed your view?
I have certainly not changed my position whatsoever. Here's what I'm telling you. The fact of the matter is that every single Democrat in the Senate and in the House have voted for abortion up until the day of birth. The former governor of Virginia has said he was a pediatrician, even infanticide. So stopping late-term abortions is something that 90% of Americans actually believe.
That's false, Senator. Democrats don't support infanticide.
They've already voted.
Senator,
no, they voted for it, Kristen.
Senator, but as you know, late-term abortions are exceedingly rare. As you know, they are exceedingly rare and almost always in the state of a medical health crisis.
Kristen, you cannot deny the fact that the Democrats have voted, not talked about, but voted for abortions until the day of birth. That is a fact. You can look that up in the records of Congress. So I'm not talking about hypotheticals. You continue to bring me hypotheticals. The truth is, and I got to say, this is kind of interesting. The truth is simple. The Democrats are radical. 90% of Americans don't agree with them. Let's get back to following what the Dobbs decision created, which is an opportunity for the states to make their decisions.
Just very quickly, though, it's important to point out abortions in later-term pregnancies are exceedingly rare. Have you changed your position, though? Do you still support a national abortion ban?
I support having the next president of the United States be the most pro-life president we've had.
Yes or no? National abortion ban? Senator, do you support a national abortion ban?
Here's what we know. It will never get to the president's desk. President Donald Trump will continue to reinforce the Dobbs decision, which puts the decision back to the states.
All right, Senator Tim Scott, I have a lot more questions. I'll have to bring you back on, and we'll have part 2 of this conversation. Thank you very much. Let's do it. Thank you for joining me.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.